In this video tutorial, we're going to look at how to use Python with PyGame to make a simple game. Two elements that this game will feature are that we will use the mouse to place things, and we will also draw any of the players and non-player characters using vector graphics. We're going to use Replit as the platform for creating this code, although the code that you see was actually using PyScripter. As usual, we need to have a pre-game loop setup section. So we're going to start off with a whole raft of setup code to import the libraries, to make the colors that we want to use, to set the screen size, and then to actually draw the screen and create a clock. So all of this is fairly standard code that would be used in any Python PyGame. So I'm going to go to Replit here. I'm going to go for a new REPL. So I'm going to create a REPL. It's important that we don't just use Python here, but that we use PyGame. PyGame has extra code that allows a window to open that can deal with the mouse and keyboard. I'm going to call this ChessChase, ChessChase tutorial, and I'm going to create my REPL. So every PyGame needs to have certain code to function. So I'm going to start off just with a comment in the main code section here. So chess chase game. And then I'm going to import PyGame. So we need to have the PyGame library, otherwise we can't use any of the functions. And it will also be helpful if we import random, and that will let us do random things in the game so that it's not always exactly the same. Okay, so having imported PyGame, we should say pygame.init. And init is a function, so it must have round brackets after it, even though there's nothing in those round brackets. And that will call the code to initialize PyGame and set it up, get it up and running. We also need to have a few colors available to draw things on the screen. And the colors are made with red, green and blue in different mixtures. So if I make black, I'm going to make this as a triplet of colors. So no red, no green and no blue is how to make black. And the opposite of that, white, is going to be full red, full green and full blue. So that's 255, which is the biggest amount that we can fit into a byte. So 255, 255, 255 will give us full color and therefore make white. If we want just a single color like red, then we put full into just one of the triple. So it's RGB, red, green, blue. So the first one is red. So 255 and then no green and no blue. And then finally, what will be useful in this game is if we have a grey as well. So I'm going to say grey equals, and then we just need to make sure that we mix equal amounts of each colour. I'm going to go for 150, 150, and 150, so that we get a nice palish grey. Okay, other things that we will need to sort out. We need to have a screen loaded up. So it will be helpful to have reference to that. So max width is going to be 400 and max height is also going to be 400. I'm going to make a chessboard, so it should be square. I'm also going to use something called square size, and square size, because it's a chessboard, is going to be max height or max width, doesn't really matter. So max height, and then I'm going to use a double divide here by 8. The double divide turns it into an integer, So if there was any fractional part, it would just remove that. Okay, the other thing I would want to have is a starting position for my player. So I can define two different values at the same time here. I could have done that with the max height, but I'm going to do it now. X comma Y, so that's going to be two values, and that's going to be max width over 2 and max height over 2. So both values being assigned at the same time there. To see what's going on in my game, I'm going to have a screen that I can see things on. So I'm going to declare screen equals, and then some fairly standard code here, PyGame.display. So I'm setting up a display, and I need to set underscore mode. So this is a function. Notice it's telling me the parameters that I'll need, a size, some flags, a depth, a display, and so on. I really just need the size part here. So I'm going to put some brackets, and then inside that, and this is really important, I need to give it a pair of values. So I'm going to put more brackets. That's going to be max width, comma, max height. So that pair is what's going to be used to set the size of the screen. It's always nice to start off with a particular screen color, so I'm going to say screen dot fill, and I'm going to use black to blank the screen. The other thing that's going to be very useful in our game is to have a clock that lets us keep track of time so that we can bring on our non-player characters every so often. So I'm going to make something called clock, and that's going to be pygame.time dot. Now notice here the function clock starts with a capital E letter, which is a bit unusual. But in the Pygame library, time.clock is what's necessary to create a clock object. So we use a capital C here, we're using a little c for our internal version of the clock. And that is us, we've created our initial setup code, so we're now in a position to start to make our game loop. The game loop is the thing that will get repeated over and over again. It's got a section for seeing what the user's done. It's got a section for figuring out what's happening in the game, and it's got a section for then showing that on screen. So our classic Pygame loop is to say that done equals false. Notice that false has a capital F, otherwise it won't be a keyword. And then we're going to say while not done. So while we've not finished, while we're still going, do this loop over and over again. Okay, we're going to see what the user's up to, so we need to look out for certain events. So for that reason, we need to find out what events have happened. So we use a for loop to get all of the events. So we say for event in pygame.event.get. So that will fetch everything that's happened. Because it's a loop, obviously, just as we did here, we defined a block using a colon. So I define a block using a colon, and it automatically indents me. So there are only certain events that we're actually interested in. There might be things going on that we don't really care about, but we definitely need to know if the user's trying to get out of the program. So we say if event.type double equals, so we're comparing. So we use a double equals to see if it matches up. So if it's pygame dot, and then notice quit is all in capitals here. It's one of the constants that's defined in the Pygame library. So if the user has pressed the red cross on their window, what are we going to do about it? Well, they obviously want to finish the game. Not sure quite why that's happened there, but if they're trying to finish the game, then done becomes true. And again, notice true with a capital T at the start. So if they want to get out of the game, we say let them leave the loop and get on with it. Okay, that's our first event. The next event that we're going to have a look at here in this particular game, and I've got to indent to the same level as any of the other events, so I've tabbed in a few times here. And I'm going to say if event.type matches, so again a double equals, PyGame dot mouse motion. So there's a lot of different mouse things that I can look at there. I'm interested in the mouse moving. So if we've got a mouse motion, then what are we going to do about it? Well, we're going to find out where the mouse has moved to. And again, just popping up that strange dock thing there. So position equals, so I'm going to fetch pygame.mouse.get_pos. So that means get the position of the mouse. And that will give me a little bit of information that's got things like where on the screen am I, but also which mouse buttons am I using and so on. And simply what we want to do, we start out with our X and Y in the middle of the screen, but if the user moves the mouse, then we're going to say X, Y equals position 0, that's the first bit of information, and position 1, and that's the second bit of information. So we've now got in our XY coordinates where on the screen our mouse is. And that's it for the events at the moment. We'll maybe add a few later on, but for the moment I want to just add in here a separator. So I'm going to add in here game logic section here, and then I'm going to add another section which is screen drawing section here. So I want to make it clear where the different chunks of my code are. And that just makes it much easier to find where to put things later on. Okay, I've not got any game logic at the moment, there's not a lot happening, but I do need to draw some stuff on the screen. So what I'm going to do, for the moment, I'm going to line this up with the for loop. So the for loop gets all the events, and then I draw things after that's happened. And I'm going to say draw chess board. And at the moment, it's going to tell me that it's undefined. I don't have any code that draws the chessboard. And that's okay, we're going to add it later. And the other thing I would want to do, same level of indent, is draw player. Rather than just drawing it, I'm going to draw it at a particular position. So I'm going to feed it the X and Y coordinates. Having done that, I'm then going to pygame.display.flip to show all the things I've just drawn on the screen. And then I'm going to clock.tick. And I use a frame rate here. You can't go too high when it's in Replit Online. I'm just going to use a 30 frames frame rate. Okay, so if we have a look here, we did our setup code. We've now got our main game loop ready to go, but we are going to need to add these missing functions, the draw chessboard and the draw player. And because these are functions, they have to be defined before the game loop. We can't just put the code after pygame.quit. It's a good point, we need to put pygame.quit in as well. So I'm just going to go and sort that out. After my game loop has finished, right flush with the side of the screen, pygame.quit, and that's a function, so we need to have open brackets. Otherwise, we can't actually get out of your code. Okay, so we're set up now for the next chapter. We've done section 1 and 2 of the instructions, and we're going to go on and add this drawing code in the next section.